Harlem is a poem from 1951. It's written by an Afro-American poet called Langston Hughes. The poem describes that if you don't fight for the dream, you kind of just let it go. We want to talk about the comparisons in the poem because it's a big part of it and a big part of how you understand it. There are a lot of unwritten things that you have to see before you understand the poem fully. Langston Hughes is thinking of some things that he might be able to say in another way that he has done, where the most of the poem is written in a kind of a code. The poem is very short because it doesn't need a lot of words to describe what it means. First, we would like to read the poem. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fizzle like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a savory speed? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? Let's take a look at comparisons. Does it dry up in the sun like a raisin, or fizzle like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a savory sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? The whole poem is in a way a comparison of things that gets worse with time. He means if you have a dream you have to follow it, or else it's going to be a burden the longer time you don't follow it.
He wants everybody to follow his or her dream and make it become a reality. He describes it with some things like meat. If you cook it, it will taste very good. But if you don't do anything to it and just don't touch it for some time, it's going to rot. And that isn't good. Langston Hughes just wants to say that you have to watch out. Your dream isn't going to be a burden over time, because it should be a thing to reach, not just a daydream. He doesn't want anybody to make their dream become burdens for them. Maybe he have tried it himself or seen it happen to someone that stands him near, and he has seen how it can make a person miserable and tear a person apart. In the way that their dreams were too big, and then they see their life and it's totally shit in comparison to their dream. If we take a look at the America he lived in as an Afro-American, he lived in a time where racism were more accepted than it would be today. Langston Hughes was one of the Afro-Americans who fought for civil rights in the late 1950s, just like Martin Luther King did, but Langston Hughes did it in a more civil way. It was the World War II which changed people's point of view on racism. But one thing we're always going to remember about that time is that Martin Luther King had a dream. And just to finish it off, we would like to read the poem again. Harlem by Langston Hughes. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fizzle like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode?